So welcome to this evening's part two of this three-part series on how to bring in 2020 with a bang. So yeah, I hope that you're going to find this equally useful. Yesterday's video I will post a replay of, but I'm going to do a quick recap of what we covered in yesterday's video. And I'm going to also, while I'm here, post the link to the workbook. Let's have a look here, just in case you don't have it already. So okay, so copy that. Right, let's go over here, and I'll put that in the chat for you. Okay, so yeah, what I covered yesterday in summary was looking at how to go back over your previous year to review it effectively, or not just your previous year, in fact your previous decade, to go back to 2010, all the way back to 2010, and start looking at, okay, every single year, what were the themes, what resolutions was I setting that I didn't keep and that I haven't kept, you know, pretty much any year. Where was I in areas of work, home, love, health and wealth, and then anything else that you wanted to take a look at. Yeah, to spot any patterns or themes that are coming up, that were coming up for you, and then start to look at kind of, okay, how do I want to move forward? What am I going to do about those patterns, all of those kinds of things. So again, I will post the replays on Friday to all three parts all together. And yeah, looking at what you wanted to be different in 2020 ultimately. So today, what we're going to cover, and if I'm looking down, it's because I've got notes. What I want to look at is to maybe just do a bit of an examination of why our resolutions don't stick. Then I'm also going to have a look at a couple of mindset shifts that could really make a difference for you and for myself in 2020. And then some questions to start asking yourself about what you want in 2020. And then in tomorrow's third part, we'll move on to like the 7 steps of, okay, creating that vision for the next year, and then how to actually bring it to life. And if you want to do a decade, go ahead and do a decade. I personally find it difficult to think 10 years ahead, because if I look back to 2010, I never could have imagined where I would be right now. I would have told you that you were a bonkers, crazy Looney Tune if you even suggested it. So let's crack on with today's topic. So why don't our resolutions stick? So if you're online and you want to post in the chat, then feel free to post in the chat. But I have a few theories that I'm going to share with you as to why they don't stick. So the first one is the F word, fear. And this is something that somebody yesterday in the speaking engagement that I was doing brought up, which is fear. We have fear of the unknown. So we may say that we want these changes, we want things to be different. We've had enough of life as it is, and had enough of our job, and had enough of our relationship, or whatever it might be. But in truth, humans, we're a bit wired in a bit of a weird way, and we prefer to stick with certain misery than to move towards uncertain happiness quite often. So unless we're really, really aware and conscious of what we're doing, we will find ourselves sticking with certain misery and also getting really frustrated with ourselves, because why the hell am I not moving towards what I say I want? Why am I still going around in this loop? And you know, I found myself in a loop a few years ago, and it was actually New Year's Eve that really shook me awake to this. And it was the fact that I would go and spend every single New Year's Eve with the same friend, bemoaning the same things, so complaining about the same things not changing in my life, and wondering when they were going to change, like I have no influence over these things at all. And I just had a realization one year that this had been going on now for 2 or 3 years, and it felt like Groundhog Day. And so I decided to end that particular New Year's event, or resolution, or whatever you want to call it. I ended that way of spending New Year's because I felt like, okay, this is at least one thing that I can do to do it differently. And I now spend my New Year's actually usually by myself, going back over the previous year and looking at the astrology for the year ahead, along with other things, and mapping out how I want my year to be. So it's really key to think about, okay, where am I letting my fear win? So that's one of the things. And fear can appear as like really rational, logical reasons as well, but actually underneath is fear. So it's something, it's sneaky and something to examine. Then the other things that I thought of are things like misaligned goals. So I'll go on to talk about this a little bit later, tomorrow probably. But misaligned goals are effectively goals that aren't really ours, goals that we don't really want to achieve. And I'll talk a little bit about this later on in the webinar as well. Yeah, misaligned goals are things that are not aligned with our true self and what we really want. And so the motivation to actually achieve them is not really there. And then we can also look at misaligned priorities. So if we say that we want to make a change, which usually setting a goal suggests that we want to make a change in some way, we have to align our priorities and what we're prioritizing with that change that we say we want to make. So we can't expect change to happen in our world without something changing, if that makes any sense. So if we continue to prioritize other people's priorities above our own, or we continue to prioritize watching that particular TV program, or we continue to prioritize being in our really warm, comfy bed instead of getting up and moving our bodies, whatever it might be, or we continue to prioritize just living our lives like at 99% full, so there is zero wriggle room, and I'm definitely still working on this myself, then there's going to be very little room to actually make a change, and change does require a bit of space. It requires us to make room because we're building new habits, and that takes longer, it takes more effort. So yeah, where are your priorities misaligned? If you say something is a priority for you, then you need to show that in how you're prioritizing it, and you can figure that out, which again I'm going to talk about tomorrow, in various ways. Continuing to make the same choices. So it kind of alluded to this in what I was talking about with the misaligned priorities. But if we continue to make the same choices, we're going to continue to get the same consequences. So unless we choose something different, we can't really expect ourselves to reach whatever goal it is that we're setting for ourselves, or for our resolutions to stick. You know, so really simple example from my own world. If I continue to eat chocolate after midday, because I'm so sensitive to caffeine, I am going to have sleep that is not so great, that is not so fulfilling, refreshing, whatever you want to call it. And I know this. So if I choose to eat that chocolate after midday, I know I'm going to feel anxious, I'm going to feel on edge, and I'm not going to sleep very well. So, and then that has a knock-on effect. You might think, well, is that really such a big deal? Well, but then I'm not feeling awake enough and re-energized enough to get up and do a workout in the morning, which means that I'm not taking as good care of my body as I should be taking, and just it snowballs. So teeny weeny little choices, and again, this is something that is going to come through as a theme, that it's not the big things that we need to change, it's the teeny weeny things that are really key to us changing our lives. It's like our daily habits, actions, thoughts that create the fabric of our lives, not creating some gargantuan goal. So yeah, thinking about what am I choosing? What am I choosing in my life? And I'm not saying it's easy to make different choices, because there's probably a reason why we're making those choices in the first place, but it's important to look at, and it's a reason why our resolutions don't stick. A really simple one that I'm going to add in here, that I didn't have written down, is that we don't keep track of the resolutions and the goals that we make. So I think it was 2018 actually for me, and I was going through some old notebooks with the aim of, right, I'm going to clear these old notebooks. If there's anything of value in them, I'm going to take it out of them. I'm going to use it, and then that's it, done, dusted. I'm going to, you know, chuck them in the bin. And I opened one up and found all of these goals and intentions and resolutions that I'd made at the beginning of the year. And not only that, I had like I'd taken myself away somewhere and spent days creating and going through and making these resolutions. And it was like September, and I'm looking at this notebook thinking, oh yeah, I forgot I'd made those resolutions. And so this is why I say it's just really, really key to remember them. That's like a basic thing of what are my goals, and to remind yourself of them and to have them front and center wherever you are. So whether it's as a reminder on your phone or as something on your desk or on the fridge, whatever it might be. Oh yeah, these are my goals. Just as that kind of like dehypnotizing yourself from getting into the same old habits. And yeah, and reminding yourself, oh yeah, this is what I aim to do this year. And then, you know, doing a review every 90 days as well is also a really helpful habit to get into. And it's what I'm going to be doing this year. Setting up a review so that I can look and say, okay, is that goal actually still aligned with me? Am I on track? Had I forgotten about it? What am I doing towards that goal, etc., etc. And a couple of other things. So one is being at cause rather than, no, being at effect rather than being at cause in our lives. And I'm going to talk a bit more in detail about this. So basically it means that we don't feel like we have any control or any agency in our lives. That things just happen to us rather than us being the person that makes things happen. And then the final one was old habits and old beliefs, they die hard, which is, it's true. Like, you know, just in everything that I've just said, you know, it's the habits that we've built up are they're the easier option. They're the neural pathway that's already built, whether it's a habit of thought, a habit of behavior, they're our go-to. And so it takes a bit of effort to create a new habit or to kind of disprove a belief that's been in there for quite a long time. So it takes conscious effort. And this is why we need to have our goals front and center and things like that to really help us. And there might be other things as well, like you don't have any accountability, or you're being unrealistic and expecting yourself to make certain changes without any external help. I think many of us do this. I, for one, actually really love working with other experts. So if I can work with a personal trainer, if I can work with a nutritionist, then I will, because my time is valuable to me. And if somebody can give me a shortcut by saying this, 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 and this, will get you to this result without me having to go and do all the research, etc., then I'm a happy girl. So what I want to talk about is a couple of these mindset shifts that I mentioned, so that we can hopefully get you a bit closer to keeping your resolutions. Because actually I think 1/3 of resolutions have been broken within 1 month, I think, or something crazy like that. I certainly know from being a gym goer that it's probably about a couple of weeks when you start to see the January rush disappear. So the first mindset shift is this idea of being at cause rather than effect in your life. So what do I mean by this? So for every effect, there is a cause, and every cause has an effect. So again, this comes down to the choices that you're making in your life, and how much control and power you believe that you have in your life to affect what the outcomes are, what happens in your world. So it can be really, really simple examples. And again, I always use health and fitness as an example because it is just such an easy, practical, tangible one to look at. So for instance, being at effect, you could, if you're at effect in this area of your life, you may well be saying, it just doesn't seem to matter what I do, nothing changes, I can't help it, it's not my fault that I'm just not a sporty person. All of these kinds of things are you basically saying, I have no control over whether my fitness improves, my health improves. This is my lot in life and I'm stuck with it. Nothing that I do is going to make a difference, so to speak. But ultimately that frame of mind and that way of thinking is the cause of your effect. So that way of thinking and behaving is what's causing the effect that you have, which is you not achieving your goal. So you are still at cause, even if you're behaving as if you're at effect in that case. And I hope this is making sense to you. So if you were at cause, for instance, if you were at cause for creating a positive effect, you would be saying, okay, I'm gonna find a personal trainer who can help me, and I'm gonna do what they say. I'm gonna commit to doing the things they say. I'm gonna make the changes, even if they're hard, and I'm gonna do my best. It might not be perfect, but I am gonna do my best. And I will see a difference, and then you will see that the effect that you get in your life is different because you've changed. You are now truly at cause in a positive way in your life. So personally, I believe we are always at cause, and we are always the ones who are responsible for how our lives go, and for the effects that we get in our lives. There are external factors that we can't control, yes, granted, before somebody puts their hand up and says that, but we can control what we do, how we respond, what our energy is, even if it doesn't feel like it sometimes. Ultimately, I mean, who else in the world can control what we're doing? Nobody, only us. So something to examine. Are you at positive cause, or are you at negative cause in your life? Are the effects you're getting positive or negative? Okay, whichever way around it is, however you want it to be, have a look at the cause and say, okay, well, how am I actually influencing what the effect is that I'm getting in my life, the outcome that I'm getting? So it's like input, output, so to speak. What are the inputs from me in this area of my life? What are the outputs? Okay, I need to change the inputs to get a different output. Okay, so that's one mindset shift, to think about, I have control over the inputs in my life. I really do. So I can choose the inputs that are going to give me the output that I want, and I can go and adjust if I need to adjust them. Okay. The other mindset shift is about goals, and I kind of talked about this briefly in previous points, and this is about intrinsic versus extrinsic. So when we're setting goals, and I'm sure you will know this, you will have experienced this in your life, we can either be setting goals that are intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated. And what this means is, so let me start with extrinsic. So if we are setting a goal that is extrinsically motivated, and again, I'm going to use the body as an example, and relationships in this instance. So I want to lose weight because I believe if I lose weight, then that person is going to love me more, or I'm going to become more attractive to that person. And therefore, losing weight is effectively going to make me more lovable by that person who is outside of me, who I have no control over. That is an extrinsically motivated goal. Basically, what you're saying is, I'm doing this for that person. I'm doing this, I'm making this change in order to get that particular response from that person. It's about pleasing them rather than being true to myself. As much as, you know, losing weight may well please you as well, but if your fundamental, the main driver of what you're doing is about pleasing that external person, it's an extrinsically motivated goal. And extrinsically motivated goals are not the healthiest of goals. And so we tend to fall off the wagon with them. So intrinsic is going to be the opposite, right? So intrinsically motivated goals are ones that are aligned with our truth and our well-being. So I want to lose weight because I know it's going to be, I'm going to have so much more energy. I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to be able to do all the sports that I love to do with much, and take much greater joy in doing them. I'm going to go on these adventures that I want to go on, which I maybe can't do now, or I don't feel as comfortable doing now because I haven't got the level of fitness, whatever it might be. That is an intrinsically motivated goal because it's about you and your benefit. It is not about pleasing somebody outside of you or doing something in order to get a certain reaction from somebody outside of you. It is about me. This is going to be beneficial for me and for my health and my well-being. And so that's an intrinsically motivated goal. And intrinsically motivated goals are ultimately, over the long term, more powerful. Now, don't get me wrong. Extrinsically motivated goals, like I'm going to compete with that particular person, they are sometimes a really good way of getting our asses moving when we're feeling stuck. But we have to build in the intrinsic motivation in order to make things stick. Otherwise, we're just going to fall off the wagon. And it's a little bit more complex than this because, you know, we have an internal belief system that until we change that, ultimately, we're going to always bring our external reality back to match what our internal belief system is. So it's really important to look at, do I see myself as a healthy and fit person, or do I believe ultimately that I'm just unhealthy and unfit and etc. and unworthy, whatever it might be. So when you are setting your goals, and we have a look at, you know, you choosing your goals in tomorrow's session, it's really important to look at, are these intrinsically motivated or are these extrinsically motivated? And if they're extrinsically motivated, then it's something that needs reviewing. Because yeah, it's just not healthy, not really that good for us. And yeah, we want to be creating goals that are aligned with our true self, because the goals that are aligned with our truth are the ones that are really, really going to stick, and where we're going to see things actually change in the new year. And yeah, I want to say something about alignment is that all of our desires have been given to us for a reason. It's because we are here to birth those desires. So if you're getting into this way of thinking of, oh, maybe it's just not for me, maybe this is just not meant to happen, maybe I'm just, you know, not worthy of this, or whatever it might be, but you've had that desire for a long time, there is a reason you've been given that desire. And it's time for you to start thinking about, well, how can I get my worth to match up with that desire? So that, and my beliefs to match up with that desire, so that I can go out there and make it happen and live into this vision that I have been given. And whatever your beliefs are about universe and divine intelligence, etc., etc., we have all been given desires in order to birth them. And we wouldn't have been given that desire if it wasn't for us. Okay, so last thing for today is a few questions to start asking. And I think we talked about a few on the webinar yesterday, but a few questions to start asking yourself. So have a look at the life areas again. So with my clients, I work with the life areas, like 10 different life areas, but I've simplified it down for this webinar to home, work, love, health, and wealth, whatever they mean to you. And then anything else, if you want to add a sixth category, if there's anything that I've missed that is something that's a real burning topic for you. It could be, like, spirituality maybe is in there, you know, that might fit for me under health, possibly. Have a look at all those areas of your life and think about, what do I want to change? What do I want to be different in 2020? The next question to ask is why? Why do I want that to be different? What do I believe that change is going to bring me that I don't already have? So what do I want to change and why? You know, and then extension of the why question is, what do I believe that change is going to bring me that I don't already have? And then what needs to change to make that happen? What needs to change in your life? What needs to change in you in order to make that change happen? Because as I said earlier, in order to change, something has to change. What might get in your way? So again, we could go back to these things we looked at with the resolutions and why they don't stick. What is going to get in my way of achieving this particular goal, making this particular change? And then how can I mitigate that? So do I need to be held accountable by somebody? Do I need to, am I an all or nothing person? So for me, like, you know, moderation and mediocrity, those two words, they get confused in my brain. I'm such a, kind of an achiever personality that those two words just don't compute in my mind. So for me, I'm all or nothing. I'm learning this about myself. So I'm way, way better to say, if I'm say for the next 90 days, one of my things is going to be, I'm going to eliminate chocolate, cacao, whatever it is, and refined sugar. And the best way for me to do that is to say, nada, niente, zilch, rien. None of that stuff is going to be a part of my diet at all, because I'm just way better at doing it like that than I am at saying, I'm just going to moderate and have a little bit and a little bit, because I just never have a little bit. So for those 90 days, I'm going to go all or nothing. This is, and see what changes in my energy levels, in my sleep, in my mood, all of those things. There's reasons why I'm doing it. So think about, how can I mitigate what might get in my way? Do I need to take a different approach? Do I need to become accountable to somebody? Do I need to share this goal with somebody else, as in, you know, set up a weekly check-in? Okay, we're going to work on these goals, work together to achieve them, or I'm going to hold myself accountable to you. Do I need to clear out the fridge in order that, and the cupboards, in order that there just isn't anything in there that I'm going to get tempted by, like a fresh start? What do you need to do to set yourself up for success, basically? That's what this mitigation is. How can you set yourself up for success? Do you need to set reminders? Do you need to have your goals posted on the fridge? Whatever it might be for you, think about it. Think about what has worked for you in the past when it comes to achieving your goals and your resolutions, and how you can, how you can bring that into what you're going to be doing for 2020 and the resolutions that you're going to be setting. So that is everything for this evening. So a quick recap of what I've been through. So why don't our resolutions stick? So we had fear, we had misaligned goals, misaligned priorities, that we continue making the same choices, that we don't have our goals front and center in our life. We're being at effect rather than cause, and old habits and beliefs just keeping us stuck where we are. And then, are you at cause or are you at effect? So as I mentioned, I believe we're all always at cause. So the better question to ask really is, am I putting the right things in? Am I entering the right inputs in order to get the outputs that I want? And how can I change the inputs? What are the outputs I'm getting, basically? What are the inputs I'm putting in? And okay, then that kind of makes sense. And changing the inputs. And taking responsibility for that as well. That's ultimately what being at true cause means. And then the intrinsic versus extrinsic. So are your goals intrinsically or extrinsically motivated when you're setting them? So intrinsically is they're truly aligned with you. They're all about you. They're motivated by you. Extrinsic is they're motivated by external factors like, you know, magazines or other people's opinions or whatever it might be. And then the questions to look at. So look at the life areas again of work, home, love, health and wealth. Anything else that you might want to add in there? And what do you want to change? Why? What do you believe that change is going to bring you that you don't already have? What needs to change in order to make it happen? And that is yourself and also circumstances, habits, whatever it might be. What might get in the way, and how can I mitigate that and set myself up for success? So I hope that's been of value for you this evening. I will be back again tomorrow at the same time, 6:30 p.m. And I really look forward to sharing the final part with you. And tomorrow as well, I'm going to be opening up an invitation for you to work with me on my clarity program. So that will either be career clarity or just clarity in general, life clarity perhaps. So yeah, and I'm going to be opening up a special offer as well as to how you can work with me in 2020. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I look forward to bringing you tomorrow's session, and yeah, I wish you a wonderful rest of your Wednesday evening. Bye for now.